Welcome to No Nonsense Nonprofits. Hi, I'm Sandy Ray, founder of Sandra E. Ray CPA, where we alleviate financial headaches so that you can create a bigger impact. Today, we're going to talk about the foundations of grant budgeting, and specifically multi-year grants, all the way up to 5 years sometimes. We are going to be laying out the foundations of how to budget for a grant. And of course, first of all, we're going to define what a grant budget is. So there's lots of things to consider before we ever start putting numbers on a spreadsheet. So let's get started. First of all, what is a grant budget? Just like any other budget, it is the expected cash inflows and outflows. But in this case, it's related to a specific program or project for which you are requesting funds from an outside entity. Then you're requesting those funds to cover basically the entire thing, or maybe a couple of entities to cover the entire thing, versus asking for general donations to cover all of the organization's operating costs. So in this case, we need to anticipate that those funds will be restricted either by time or by purpose. In that this budget is only a portion of the organization's entire budget. Now, to complicate that even further, this budget may run for multiple years, so we'll have to break it down by year, and it may cross fiscal years, so we're going to have to break those sections down as well. The reason that we do this is to highlight why the funds are needed so that we can present this to the grantor in our application. It helps them understand that we are planning ahead, especially if we have a multi-year grant. So why are we talking like 5 years? I love a 5-year rolling budget, and especially when it has to do with grants. I really love to see that everybody's planning ahead. It really helps us complete our strategic goals. But in addition to that, it shows funders that we want sustainability and we want growth, and we're planning for it. We have a vision for it. It gives us credibility with the funders and shows them that we are thinking strategically. Now, I understand that the budget in the later years may not be the final budgets that we end up with when we get there. As information gets better, those budgets will get better as well. So what are the key components of a budget for a grant? Very similar to what the key components are for a budget for our entire organization, but we're thinking of this one program or project specifically. So of course, we're going to have personnel and fringe costs like salaries and payroll taxes, benefits. How are we going to allocate our team members to this project? Do we need new team members? Those are the kinds of things we need to be thinking about. What is the staffing requirements going to be? Our operating costs. How are we going to be utilizing our office? And how does that affect our utilities and communication costs? Equipment and supplies. Are we going to need to buy a new piece of equipment to run this program? Or are we going to have to continue to purchase certain types of supplies or minor equipment for this program? Professional services. Are we going to be hiring consultants? Do we have an outside consultant for mentoring or coaching that we're going to be bringing in, or teaching leadership skills? What other vendors might we be bringing in through an independent contractor situation rather than hiring staff? And travel. What travel is going to be necessary and why? So we're going to want to incorporate that into our budget. Then, of course, we're going to have indirect and administration. We don't want to forget about those overhead costs. We want to let the grantor know that we are going to have overhead costs associated with this, and what is it going to be? Now, some grantors won't cover overhead costs, and if your overhead allocation to this grant or program, if you can cover that with operating, wonderful. but some grantors allow an allocation to overhead costs. So let's take advantage of it. Also think about any contingencies. Is there a buffer for any unplanned costs? Are you allowed to put that in there, or do you need to add a little bit to each of the line items? Maybe staffing, for example, because you're not sure how many people that you're going to need, or independent contractors because you can bring in staffing very quickly that way. And then finally, what about our in-kind and our cost sharing? We want to show those grantors that we are receiving non-cash contributions, or we are coordinating with other organizations to share the cost of this project or program. So let's think about our donated time. Maybe we're sharing some space with someone. Are we creating some partnerships? So that kind of covers the foundations of a grant. I want you to start a grant budget. I want you to start thinking about all those things. And then next week, we're going to dive into a budget narrative, and I'll share a cheat sheet with you that brings the numbers to life. And after that, we're going to dive into building the actual budget. So I hope this was helpful for you today. If you have any questions on this or other topics, please put those in the comment section below. Of course, we always appreciate your likes, and thank you for joining me today. Remember, creating a bigger impact starts with stopping the nonsense. If you're dealing with nonsense in your nonprofit organization, we'd love to help you cut through the noise.